Hello, I'm David Hunt and welcome to The Art Hunter. My guest today, 25 years, is she old or is she started as a child actor? I reckon started as a child actor. Experience across theatre, TV and film, and also hails from Toronto in Canada. I love Canadians, as we all do. You know, they're very close to Australia. Have to ask her how she ended up here as well. As part of has a production company that is really interesting. But she got her taste for producing with the renowned cabaret venue in New York City. We've got to find out about that. So, owner, producer and artistic director of a Melbourne-based theatre company called Salty Theatre, a strong advocate for working with and mentoring with people and coaching, as well as having a new role here at the Alex Theatre. We'll be chatting about that as well. So welcome, Ashley.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. Canadian?
I am.
Right,
I am.
okay.
Born and bred.
Born and bred. So when did the bug catch you? You know, like that early performance stuff in New York City? It was
So New York City came, I'm in my mid-20s, so that came a little bit after. It started when I was 9 years old. I saw a production of The Phantom of the Opera. I absolutely fell in love with the show, and I remember we're really fortunate. We were right in I think it was the fourth row. So you know that moment when the flames shoot up from the front of the stage? To this day, I can still remember just the heat of those flames.
Oh, okay.
And just being
and did the chandelier drop?
It did, and it was so close. It felt so close. So that was my first, I guess, experience of a big musical theater production. And from that moment, I said to my mom and dad, one day I want to be on stage just like that. And I think it was about 6 months later, I landed my first role in a musical.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah.
What, through school or did you go to?
No, professional.
Okay.
Professional. I played Annie in Annie.
And what was that like as a little kid? You know, a legendary play for children, but, you know, loved by adults as well.
Absolutely. It was an incredible experience. I think it was a whirlwind. I remember having to be pulled out of school, and we had a lovely lady there who kind of took the children under her wing and helped us and did the tutoring and did all of that while we were working. But it was just the most sensational experience to be able to just play. It felt like play for months.
Yeah, and how long did you said months, but how long did you do it for?
Yeah, I did it. It was kind of like October through December.
Right.
So that started me on my path with the curly red wig and the dog, and the rest is history.
A real dog?
A real dog.
Wow, and it performed okay?
It performed 95%, I would say. There was one show we had, and the dog didn't come on. It just wouldn't come on stage. So I kept, I'm 10 years old at this point, just going, "Come on, Sandy, come on, you can do it." But she wouldn't come. So me and the gentleman who played the police officer kind of ad-libbed, and then I heard the introduction, like bars and bars and bars ahead, but it sounded right. So I just started singing Tomorrow, and the conductor was like flipping through all the pages, and miraculously he and the band got on track, and we were able to just kind of push through like nothing happened. We all knew, but hopefully nobody else did.
Right. Did the dog eventually come on?
Eventually the dog came on, but absolutely not at the right time.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty amazing. It was only a few times that happened. So,
yeah, we got lucky. It was a good pup, and treats helped. So.
And so from that, you realised that you've got the bug. And did you study theatre or?
I did. I studied theatre and drama at the University of Toronto. I was there for a few years and was fortunate enough to get a contract with the Shaw Festival. So I left school and continued to work.
Oh, it was Shell Festival?
The Shaw Festival.
Right.
Yeah, it's a repertory company in Ontario, And 9 months out of the year, it's producing just phenomenal theatre, one of the best companies in the country.
Okay, so that was a great learning curve for you as well, right?
It was. I was doing 2 shows there throughout the season.
Wow. So let's jump forward. I'm fascinated with this cabaret venue in New York. How did that happen?
Well, I was living in New York City.
Oh,
and
okay.
Yeah, I moved to New York when I was 25. I got my visa and then my green card for performance.
Oh, that's really odd, the fact that it's only across the border, but you've got because it's so funny for us, isn't it? Being an island per se.
Absolutely, it does. It feels like kind of just an extension of the same place in so many ways. But there was some jumping through hoops, but I was fortunate enough to get there, and I was working as a singing waitress at a diner to pay the bills. And
the life of an actor.
Exactly.
Yep.
And then a colleague and I had an idea for a cabaret, called it Heartache Milkshakes and Broadway, because we were serving milkshakes.
Yeah,
clever.
Boom, boom.
And we were able to line up a slot at a venue in New York in Times Square called Don't Tell Mama. And it's been around for decades and decades.
I know it.
It's such a brilliant space. So what an honor to be there.
So how did you get in to perform there?
Well, we had a meeting.
Applied.
Yeah, we applied and had a meeting, and they went, let's do it.
Yep.
We were fortunate.
So that they were, like looking for new talent as well as doing the standard cabaret shows.
Yeah, that's correct.
Fantastic. So, and you stayed in New York for how long?
I was in New York for almost 3 years.
Yep.
And then from there, I moved to Los Angeles and had a crack in LA.
Yeah.
Definitely a different vibe from New York. But that's where I met my husband, who is from here originally.
Okay.
And that's what brought me to Australia.
Right, okay. Coming to Australia, how different was it to Canada and New York?
You know what? Australia, and Melbourne in particular, feels like a sister city to Toronto. There are so many similarities, and it was very easy to kind of ground myself here and settle roots. And Jeremiah, my husband, has family here, and so our little man, our Grant, our 6-year-old, has grandparents here as well.
Yeah.
It's hard to be away from Canada, but we love it.
Yeah.
We love Melbourne.
And is your husband part of the biz?
Not anymore. He was for many years, and that's what had brought him to Los Angeles. His mom's American, so he lived there for about 10 years. And right as I met him, he was stepping out of the industry.
Right.
So for better or worse for him, I kind of yanked him back into it just a little bit with everything that I'm up to.
Yeah.
But it's great.
Well, what was it like though, having to start all over again here in Australia? Like you wouldn't have known people. Maybe he could introduce you to some?
Yeah, I think he introduced me to a couple people. We've got some contacts now that are mutual, which is pretty great. But majoritively, because he'd been away for so long, it was very much starting over. I took a little bit of time off and away from the industry. When we had Grant, we got married and had our son. And I just kind of had that time to go, okay, is this something that I want to continue to do? Is it something I need in my life? And it very much is. It's a big part of me, entertainment and theater in particular. Yeah. So it was very much starting on the ground floor, and starting Salty Theatre was a way to kind of take the reins for my career here, starting from dot, really.
Well, I'm finding that more and more with a lot of actors, that they're going into setting up their own theatre company and obviously producing, because it's an opportunity to forge your own career and do the projects you want to do. Okay, you might have to do the other stuff for the dollars, but it's a smart thing to do, isn't it?
It is, and I think thinking of yourself in the industry that way, it's you as a business, and that's something that I know, especially coming right out of school and right out of training as an actor, you don't always have a complete understanding of what that means to be your own business. Yeah. And it's very empowering. And I think also for me, really diving in here as a producer
Yep.
and more recently as a director as well, that was exciting for me because I knew I enjoy acting and I still do the odd thing here and there, but I don't want to be away every night from my family, and family comes first. So with producing and directing, I'm really able to kind of make my own hours and create my own ideas and help build a community to support other young artists who very much, I was one of them for so long.
And that's an important key to producing and directing and stuff. So why, like you've set up your company here and what sort of productions have you done?
Yeah, so we started in 2019 with a little show out of Toronto called People Suck, a musical airing of grievances. Very cheeky, very clever, started at the Butterfly Club. And we had a return season from there. And then Voldemort and the Teenage Hogwarts musical parody was a great show.
Yeah.
And that one has been around with us for about 3 years.
Now, for those that don't know, that those words that you mentioned, that's got something to do with this guy called Harry Potter. But you can't really mention that too much because
That's right. That's right. Trademarks, politics.
Yep. But the fact is that franchise is huge.
Massive.
And the following that people, and the love of it. I'm a Harry Potter fan.
Yes,
I was reading the books back, before they were films. I would be pushing little kids out of the way on the day of release to buy my book. That's so well written. The imagination, it takes you on a journey and whatever. So who wrote this?
A team out of Los Angeles who came from the Upright Citizens Brigade. Actually, Zach Reno was one of the main writers. So a team from the comedy group in Los Angeles. Originally did it, produced it at the Edinburgh Fringe, and during one of my rabbit hole deep dives, I tracked down this show and reached out to the writers and the originating producer and said, I'd like to premiere it in Australia. Can we talk?
And we hear that so often that people go off to the Edinburgh Festival and then everyone is there clamouring for different shows.
That's right.
So the Americans are aware of Edinburgh as well, are they?
They are, very much so.
Okay.
It's in terms of theatre, especially fringe theatre, Edinburgh, anywhere in the world, that is Mecca. That and Adelaide, I think, are the two largest theatre fringe festivals in the world.
But I'm surprised you got it. Wouldn't there have been other people clamouring for it around the world?
You would think. I think part of it was timing, probably. Part of it was luck, but I firmly believe that the projects that you get are ones that are meant to happen, and you build those relations. And what's been really exciting is building those relationships, because in the earlier stages of Salty Theatre, rather than going through licensing houses, I'd go directly to writers to premiere a new show, or directly to other producers, and start building those global, those international kind of bridges, really, that community. Because as far as I'm concerned, to be in Australia and help develop new works here and help bring kind of independent international works interstate or overseas to kind of create a global community, that's so exciting. And there's not a lot of that happens outside of, I guess, festival seasons, really.
So here you are with your own production company, and now all of a sudden you appear at Alex Theatre. What's your role?
My role here, I was brought in as venue manager, and I'm working alongside Alec Bass, who is the owner and patron of the theatre. And I'm working with him to bring the artistic vision of this space to life. So I'm starting to curate our 2024 season and really help create a brilliant, I guess, entertainment and theatrical hub. This place is amazing. This theatre has so much life and vibrancy, and so I'm here to help build it, to continue the next evolvement, is that a word? I don't know, of the theatre.
Well, the next generation. of the theatres. But the interesting side that I find is, how do you feel about walking away from your product, or are you going to actually produce some stuff here as well, or can't you say?
No, I can absolutely say what has been an incredible gift is that Alex and Alan, the general manager of the theatre, have been hugely supportive in what I have built with Salty Theatre, and they have not only welcomed me but encouraged me to bring Salty Theatre into the Alex as well. So I'm able to integrate productions for next season and new works development opportunities. So while they're still separate companies, on one hand, I'm also kind of starting to merge projects, at least kind of collaboration, which is amazing.
What I find is, because I film here, and they've been very generous for me filming the Art Hunter here, but what two wonderful people, Alex being the owner and Alan being the general manager, like their insight and support for the arts is just been outstanding, I think.
It absolutely has been, and getting to know the two of them and finding out about their philanthropy and what they do to support artists. It's really sensational, and they're so low key about it. I feel like many people in the industry have no idea how much they're doing to help independent artists and help bolster the community in a way that, now more than ever, we need that support, don't we?
Absolutely. And, the Alex Theatre was closed down over the COVID period, although we were still here filming the Art Hunter, because we could.
Yeah.
It was a community service because we were on Channel 31. But rebuilding it, and it's wonderful that somebody like yourself is here to help take the reins. Where are you going with it? Is it going to be plays, or is it a real mixture of everything?
It's going to be a mixture. So we'll have our main musicals in Theatre One in Vast Theatre, and do a number of those throughout the season, but we want to get plays into this space. We actually have a new play premiering in October here, which we're very excited about, as well as getting live music into the lounge and doing developments and workshops of new projects. And we have other companies that we're starting to build relationships with to help just really grow the space. At some stage, I'd like to have a show in every single space going on at the same time.
Absolutely, and there's no reason it can't.
Exactly.
Because over my shoulder is the studio, which is a perfect venue for cabaret.
It is. It's gorgeous.
Yeah, it's just so perfect for cabaret. So there's so much to do. It must be daunting. This morning when I was writing up your little intro, I could hear you on a Zoom call to an American.
That's right.
And I had no idea what it was about because I was busy doing what I was doing. But there's so much that and it takes time, as you said, programming for next year.
That's right.
But a lot of theatre productions can sometimes take 2 or 3 years to get up.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, and it's. I think what I have to constantly remind myself of, and I'm sure other creatives are like this, we get so excited and we get so many ideas rushing through our minds all at once. You have to remind yourself that, it's not a race, it's a journey. So, each step of the way we begin to grow. And I think the beginning of that is just being able to curate a solid season for next year and have those other kind of support and development projects going on interspersed throughout that. But that means meetings with new producers, meetings with people from overseas who, it's really exciting. Out of New York and out of London, we have relationships that we're building there. But yeah, it takes time. And I have to remind myself of that because I get very excited and sometimes I want it all to happen at once.
I'd be exactly like that. That sort of, no, why can't it happen next week?
Exactly.
Aren't you free next week? Aren't you free? So, there is this long journey and, is there, without giving too much away, but have you got some ideas that will take it to a whole nother level? I'm sure you're working with everyone else behind the scenes on that. And what about Canada? Have you reached out to productions in Canada? Because, one of the very famous Canadian plays that's been musicals, that's been backwards and forwards here in Melbourne is Come From Away.
Yeah.
I've seen it 4 times.
Sensational.
And the biggest surprise of a show.
Yes, I actually, Michael Rubinoff, who is the creator and originating producer of Come From Away, is a colleague of mine and is actually a mentor of mine as well. So Michael built out an incredible new works program through a theatre called Sheridan College in Canada, just outside of Toronto, and was there for years. And that's where Come From Away started its development in this program. And so Michael, to me, has always been someone to look up to in terms of how to support new artists and new works and give those ideas an opportunity to really gestate and grow and thrive and be more than just kind of, it's a reading and then it's done, like give them life.
Yeah.
And he started a new similar program across Canada. Just recently, it was launched a couple of weeks ago, so I've reached out to Michael since, and and I'm hoping that in the next year or so we'll be able to do some collaboration.
Yeah.
So we will see where it goes.
So with you being a creative and director and producer, what was it about Come From Away? Well, apart from the obvious, just a brilliant show. But the fact is that the belief on bringing something like that to Australia, we didn't know about it at all. Most people didn't know that story. You know, like you guys would have known about it in Canada, but we had no idea. You know, like, and even to this day, when I mention it to people, they go, "What? You know, did that really happen? You know, why didn't we know about that more?" Well, what is the magic of a show like that?
I think the magic of a show like that is the way it connects us. I think it's about humanity, and it's about community, and it's about heart. And there are, you know, so many shows that are brilliant and we have a great time seeing them, but that show in particular, and like you said, a show that nobody really knew about here, suddenly stole the limelight. I think it's because we can all relate to being those people in some sense, people who have felt lost, people who need connection, people who have hope. And I think it's always been that way, but now we're all reconnecting and trying to find the things that unify us. And I think that show really, truly represents that idea of the importance of human connection and compassion.
And also amazing music.
The music, just the East Coast kind of sound and the folky.
Very folky, yeah. You know, like you feel very much Irish or somewhere else in the world as well.
You're welcomed in, like you feel like a part of it.
And every time another song starts, you think, whoa, you know, like, you know, like, and you can see the smile on everyone's faces around you in the theatre. But then there's all this theatre that around now that is very much jukebox.
Yes.
And one of them in particular even has a jukebox on the stage before it starts, and then that interval it comes back, and I'm not loving it. You know, like it's a little bit too obvious for me. But it's doing is bringing young people into the theatre.
Yeah, and I think there's a place for all of it, and those style of shows in particular, they're bringing in young people. And what's amazing is that because there's something familiar there for people to latch onto musically, they're willing to go, oh, I know I can go into the theater and like listen to amazing music that makes me want to sing along, and we'll see what the story is that connects it. And I think also shows like that are able to more easily welcome in an audience that may have never seen a live theatrical production before, because they see NSYNC or the Backstreet Boys or Britney Spears, or Elvis Presley coming up as well. They see those famous names and familiar sounds.
But the thing is, you can tell they're not theatre goers because they talk to each other. And they're often on their phones until you kick the back of their seat. If they do it, you know, like, so it's a lot of that magic is sort of just being, I'm an old fart now and a grumpy old man, but I still want to go to the theatre and be wowed by a production. I don't want to be like sort of tortured by the people
by the
sitting
people
around.
It's a tough one, isn't it? Because
Yeah.
you can do the announcements at the beginning and let people know, but it's, I think too, in kind of with so many screens around and people used to streaming and like watching television and like being entertained but distracted at the same time. It's a strange thing, and I don't know what the trick is to get people to really just go, oh, these are real people performing for you, so please respect that. I think it's just gonna take more time and more Patti LuPone's like stopping in the middle of the show, going, "Excuse me, please get off your phone."
I love
those stories are great.
Or have somebody, one of the ushers, that's with a big hand on it, and walk around slapping in the back of people's heads. Of course, I'm joking.
Or the cane, but in the audience, not on stage.
Pull them out. But like that's just going off on a tangent. But there are so many wonderful moments in theatre right now, and in like running a theatre as well. Challenges.
Always.
Yeah, and but good luck with it all.
Thank you.
It's a big challenge, but I know and I have the faith in this theatre, the Alex Theatre, that it's going to get through. And with somebody like you on board for the next couple of years, like to take us on the journey, it's going to be a wonderful time. Ashley, thank you so much for chatting with us today.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks.
I'm David Hunch. You've been watching The Art Hunter, and we'll be back again next week. See ya.